Hey friends, have y'all been seeing all of the amazing books coming out in 2024? I am overwhelmed, but I do have a list of mostly literary fiction releases that I am super excited for in this coming year, so let's chat about them. Okay, so I tried to keep my list to 24 books for your sake and mine. I know we were just talking about being more disciplined in our reading, trying to make sure that we don't completely exile ourselves from bookish excitement and new releases, but also that we sort of stick to the syllabus, stick to the plot. But there are just so many good books that are coming out this year, and I am so excited to chat about them. So I do have 24. Most of them are lit fic. I think there's 1 or 2 short story collections, 3 short story collections. I do want to read more short stories in 2024, but enough prologue. Let's just dive in. So we are going to organize this by month. So the first book that I am super excited about is a Kylie Reid book. It's called Come and Get It. So I tried to read Such a Fun Age by this writer, and I just could not get on with it. And so I'm hoping that second time's a charm. I want to read you the blurb. So this one says, a fresh and provocative story about a residential assistant and her messy entanglement with a professor and 3 unruly students. I am so in. Listen, I am a simple girl with simple pleasures. Give me all the entanglements and I am there. So this one is a Putnam Sun release. Second book on the list is, I actually have a copy of it. This one was not on my radar, but the publisher reached out to me, and once I read the blurb, I was like, oh, I give it. I want it. So this one is Holiday Country by Ine Utrek, and this one is coming out in January 2024 by Flatiron, I believe, by Flatiron Books. This one takes place in a Turkish seaside, and it's like the chick, the protagonist, the daughter, starts having an affair with some dude from mom's past. There is some tangle there. And yeah, so it's about an affair or an almost affair with a younger woman and an older man, which is kind of catnip to me. And the line that got me was a rapturous meditation about what it means to explore being in 2 worlds, the limitations and freedoms of a life in translation, and the intricacies of a love triangle that stretches across generations and continents. That sounds hella compelling. Sorry, I do the flip to a random page and see what a sentence feels like. And this one is, I've never been with an older man, or really with anyone outside my usual parameters of time and space. All my boyfriends, past and present, had been attainable within the radius of my own circle. Interesting. This is one that I'm excited to get into. 3. Dang. I should organize this better. Let me go get the fallen soldier. Oh, okay. The third book that is also coming out in 2024, and it's being published by Doubleday, is More, a memoir of an open marriage by Molly Rosen Winter. This is about, I think, I just have vague recollections, but I think this is about a woman, a mother, who's in a marriage, and she encounters an attractive dude. That dude hits on her, and her husband's like, no, yeah, you should like him. And then she engages in this like affair, and she's thinking about motherhood and open marriageness, I think. So this one is described as an unputdownable memoir of love, desire, and personal growth that follows a happily married woman's exploration of sex and relationships outside of her marriage. Very reminiscent of one of my favorite essays from the Paris Review. Oh, I have to say who it's written by because I always talk about this essay, but I'm never giving credit where credit is due. But it's called Scenes from an Open Marriage. I will put it here. I'll link it below. It's one of the best things I've ever read. I think I'm maybe just hungry for more of that, and so I'm hoping that this delivers. But yeah, open marriages are cool. I like to read about them. So we're excited. So those are 3, right? The fourth one, and this actually was put on my radar by a lovely human in this community. We were talking about how one of their top breeds had been by Oshetsky. Oshetsky, is that the name of the Oshetsky? Yeah. And we were chatting about the fact that this writer had a new book coming out. So definitely it's thanks to you that this book is on my radar. Poor Dear. This one's published by Echo. It will also be coming out in January. January is going to be quite a full month. A lot of stuff is being released that month. And the line that got me about this was heart-ending, hopeful, and boldly imagined. Poor Dear explores the journey toward understanding the children we once were and the stories we tell ourselves to make sense of life's most difficult moments. I love me a child narrator. I love me storytelling around that sort of movement from child into whatever else we develop into. I've also heard a lot of great things about Oshetsky. Yeah, super thrilled to dive into this. The next book, another January release, is Good Material by Dolly Alderton. The only thing I know about this book is that it is a breakup book, an anti-romance if we will. I really enjoyed Ghosts by this writer. Ghosts was a book about like the horrors of online dating, and I really liked how Alderton tackled romance in our current sort of landscape, and so I'm excited to read this one. I've actually seen a lot of mixed things about this book, so I'm excited to sort of sit in it and make my own judgment call and opinion about it. I feel like Dolly Alderton is a writer whose stuff I will eventually, like, I feel like I'll read her entire catalog because she's an interesting writer who I think has her finger on the pulse of weird landscape of romance today. So yeah, so that's what I'm really excited about. The blurb for this one is a story of heartbreak and friendship and how to survive both. That sounds yummy. That one's coming out in the US in January by Kanam. We're finally into February. Oops. The first book I have for releases that are coming out in February is a book that I have actually already read. And it's a book that I read after I sort of declared my online reading year over. I read it in this liminal space and it ended up being such a moving, impactful bomb of a book. Buddy read this with Sarah and we were kind of just both like, this is crazy. She's incredible. Megan Nolan. I'm gonna kiss your little feet. She's incredible. Did I say the name of the book? I don't think I did. The book is called Ordinary Human Failings. It's already out in the UK, but it's coming out in the US in February by Little Brown. And this is a story about, it's kind of like a portrait of this family. And we have the youngest daughter and her being a suspect in a murder. This child dies and then the family is sort of embroiled in this investigation. And so we are seeing all of these different characters, how this family sort of orbit each other and never really intermix until they have to. And the entire lives, I don't know, it was just so incredible. Like, it's just like a phenomenal book. I'm not really one, I don't really like family stories. It's not like a draw for me, but the way that Nolan is able to take each character and provide them with so much dignity and so much breadth and so much elaboration, it's just like super mind-blowing. This book did this to me. It wrung me out. I'll likely reread it. I feel like I don't own any Nolan, but Nolan has been like, every time I read anything by Nolan, I am just so blown away. So I do need to like purchase her. It might be one of my first books on the favorites pile. And it's gonna be a 2024 book. Even though we read it in space between 2023 and 24, don't tell anyone. It's gonna be a 2024 book, and I definitely think it's gonna be a favorite of 2024. The rules are made up and nothing matters, so. I've read this one already, but I'm super excited for all of y'all to read it and to hear everyone's thoughts about it, because this was fantastic, incredible, 10 out of 10. Actually, there's another human in our community who I remember when I was asking about top 3 books, they mentioned this one being a top favorite. So you know who you are. You always recommend the best book, so thank you. I feel like I was curious about this book, but because it has been described as a family saga, I was kind of ambivalent about it. Oh my gosh, we didn't even talk about my sweater. Isn't it cool? Okay, anyway. So yeah, so I am not really drawn to family stories, but because I feel like we have very similar reading taste, and I had also been talking about Buddy reading this with Sarah, and so I had like both of these readers whose taste I really trust sort of motivating me towards this, and super glad that I read it. I spoke too soon about who my favorite author of 2023 was. Megan Nolan is just like incredible. But anyway, I've spoken far too long about that. Ordinary Human Failings 2024 by Little Brown. The next book that I'm really excited for in 2024 is Alphabetical Diaries by Sheila Heti. Sheila Heti initially was publishing, it was like a weekly release. What is this called? It was a serialized release of her diaries through the New York Times. And I remember that came out like a few months after I had finished reading Motherhood for the first time. It would always come out on Wednesdays. And I remember I would just like read and reread, I don't know what it's called, an article, an essay, this entry. I would just sit and reread it because it was really hypnotic. And so when I saw that she was compiling it into a book, I was really excited. Really grateful that FSG sent this my way. I think I planned to do multiple rereads of it, because I feel like what I said here is I feel like I may read this book many times. I'm curious the lines that will make me shift, that will pull on the phrase of my heart. Sometimes I can't read my handwriting. And so let's track it, shall we? So I had that little intention there, and I think I was going to do different colors for different years. It's the kind of book where just like, it's a collection of little snags, little things that will snag on your heart. And it's one that I've been moving through slowly, but it's been so delightful to move through. I'm excited to chat with everyone about it when it does come out. Okay, 7. Number 8. I don't know if this one's considered a literary fiction book, but I am excited for it. This is a New Zealand publication. This is Greta and Valden. This one's also coming out in February by Avid Reader Press. Okay, so I think this one's about siblings who are not exactly coming of age, but they're like growing up and they're moving through like heartbreak and romance and adulthood. We sort of get a picture of their family. Again, family stuff is not really my vibe, but there was one Goodread review of this that said it's very funny, full of droll observations and one-liners that had me reading lines out loud to my husband. Anytime that a book prompts you to rope innocent bystanders into the text, I am always down for it. I have high hopes for this. I'm excited. The next book I do not have. It is a collection of short stories, and this one I'm really excited for. This one's called Sweet Lust by I'm gonna look it up, by Asha Bashik, and this one's being published by the Feminist Press. Okay, listen to this blurb. In a dystopian world with no men, women are rehabilitated. I'm seeing that I wrote February 2023. Let's just make sure this is a 2024 release. Oh, it was published in 2023. LOL. The last book that is coming out in February 2023 that I have on my list is Plastic by Scott Guild. This one, the blurb of it was both a dystopian comedy and a serious dissection of our own pre-apocalypse. Scott Guild's debut novel is a beautiful and fabulously inventive look at the hollow core of American society and a guide to how we might reanimate all its broken plastic pieces. It's like mundanity, and then there's a terror attack, and then they start to explore the wonders of virtual reality landscapes. This sounds really interesting and I'm curious to read it. It's a surreal, hilarious, and sneakily profound debut novel that casts our current climate of gun violence and environmental destruction in a surprising new mold. This one's coming out by Pantheon. All right, we're finally in March. So I'm gonna have to find one more book because I don't want to have 23 books. I have to find one more because yeah, Sweetless was a 2023 release, my bad. Okay, March 2024. The next book I am super excited about. This one's called Say Hello to My Little Friend by Janine Capó Cruzet. This one is coming out by Simon & Schuster. And Janine is kind of like an auto-buy author for me. I read her short story collection, How to Leave Hialeah, during the pandemic. At the beginning of the pandemic. I just remember each story so vividly and quite honestly hauntingly. I really enjoy her writing, and so I am always really curious about anything that she puts out. This one is described as Scarface meets Moby Dick in this groundbreaking darkly comic novel about a young man's attempt to capitalize on his mother's murky legacy, a story steeped in Miami's marvelous and sinister magic. There is a Pitbull impersonator in the story and it seems hella Cuban and hella Miamian, so I'm down for that. I love that. I feel like she is just someone who I will always follow and read, and so I'm really excited about this new release. The next one that is coming out in March is a Riverhead release, and this one is Parasol Against the Axe by Helen Oyeyemi. The blurb for this one talked about like competitive friendship. Say less. I am in. If I do pick this one up, this would be my first Oyeyemi, which I'm okay with because, I mean, I do love when books have a lot of mixed reviews, and I feel like all of her books are super mixed. Like people do not, there's no consensus about her books. So I'm curious to read this one particularly because of the theme that it explores. So those were the two that are coming out in March. In April, we have new Maggie Nelson. Maggie Nelson is coming out with Like Love Essays and Conversations. So Like Love is a collection of essays. The little blurb of this one is Like Love shows the writing, thinking, feeling, reading, looking, and conversing that occupied Nelson while writing iconic books such as Bluets and The Argonauts. As such, it is a portrait of time, an anarchic party rich with wild guests, a window into Nelson's own development, and a testament to the profound sustenance offered by artists and art. Maggie is also an auto-buy author for me. So yeah, this one's a no-brainer, and I'm actually super excited for this one to come. Like, I'm so eager to get my hands on this book. The next one. Okay, so this one's kind of interesting. This is a Julia Alvarez book. Julia Alvarez is such a cornerstone of Dominican literature, and I kind of feel like I have to read it. I'm sort of curious what my opinion on this book will be because Julia is someone who I always read as a younger human. I don't know if she is a writer whose writing I find resonance with anymore, but I am curious to see what this one's about. So this one's called The Cemetery of Untold Stories, and this one is being published by Algonquin Books. The blurb that I was sort of curious about is a new novel about beauty and authenticity that reminds us that stories of our lives are never truly finished, even at the end. Yeah, I'm kind of just, this is gonna be interesting because how the Garcia girls lost their accents, and I think Si en el tiempo de las mariposas, those are really formative books for me. But I'm curious if I'll feel the way I feel about like House on Mango Street as I do these, because I feel like House on Mango Street, when I read it as an adult, I still found a lot of resonance with it, and I think that is a book that it's the kind of book that you can read at different stages of your life and it'll speak to different things with the same type of maturity and the same type of complexity. I'm curious if this will be the same. But yeah, that's one that I will just be reading for my own sort of edification. Next book is not a literary fiction book. It is a romance book. And we're just gonna tuck it in there because I feel like it. The next one is Funny Story by Emily Henry. This one is coming out in April 2024 by Berkeley. It's Hen, so she could literally write a book on bowel movements and I will be reading it. That's all I gotta say on that. Next one is Weird Black Girls. This is a collection of stories by Elwyn Cotman. The blurb for this one: in each of the 7 stories in this collection, characters pursue their obsessions on paths to glory and destruction while around them the world twists and warps, oscillating between reality and impossibility. On display throughout is Cotman's ability to reveal truths about the human experience, about friendship, love, betrayal, bitterness, through whimsy, horror, and fantasy. This Oh, it's blurred by Siddiq Fofana, who wrote Stories from a Tenant's Downstairs, which was like one of my favorite books from 2022. Oh, his blurb is awesome. He said, "Homeboy can write. There's absolutely no doubt about that. Not afraid to nerd out either. A landmark collection." I love Siddiq. I am super excited to read this. This might be one that I read pretty soon because I really want to get to it. The next one I want to read is A Good Happy Girl by Marissa Higgins, and this one is out by Catapult. The blurb for this one is a poignant, surprising, and immersive read about a young professional woman pursuing an emotionally intense relationship with a married lesbian couple. Need I say more? I need not. I was gonna say it kind of sounds like We Do What We Do in the Dark. That one sounds really excited for it. The next one, okay, so this one, it's not one that I found, but one that Echo reached out to me about, and I was like, yes, that sounds so interesting. This one is Butter by Asako Yuzuki. This one is blurbed. It's a cult Japanese bestseller about a female gourmet cook and a serial killer, and the journalist's intent on cracking her case. Inspired by a true story. What? Baby, I am in. This one's also translated by what's her name? Polly Barton. And I haven't collected my own data points yet, but I kind of feel like Polly Barton is the equivalent of Julia Sanchez. Like, for me, whatever Julia Sanchez translates, I will most likely like. And I feel like, I don't know, I remember that the book by Mieko Kanai was also translated by Polly Barton. So that's just my baseless, no evidence hypothesis. But yeah, this sounds really interesting and I'm super excited. It's a chunker, but yeah, it just sounds so interesting. And I can't believe this is based on a true story. That's kind of wild. Okay, this is one that I am also super excited about. I've not yet read any Miranda July, but I feel like she's a writer who I'd get along really well with. This book is called All Fours, and it's going to be out by Riverhead in May. This one, the blurb was, All Fours tells the story of one woman's quest for a new kind of freedom. Part absurd entertainment, part tender reinvention of the sexual, romantic, and domestic life of a 45-year-old female artist. All Fours transcends expectation while excavating our beliefs about life lived as a woman. That sounds so goddamn good. I think that's like, maybe if I'm saying like a top 5, that might be one of the top 5 books that I'm really eager to pick up. I also just feel like I should finally pick up some Miranda July. I feel like we would really get along. The next one that also sounds really beautiful is called Swimming in Paris by Colombe Schneck. This one, I believe, is a translated book. Let's double check. Yes, it is translated by Natasha Lear, I think from French. This one is it's like 3 different essays or 3 different stories. 17, friendship, and swimming. And it's an orchestrated coming of age in 3 movements. That's what it is. Beautiful, masterfully controlled, yet filled with pathos, they invite the reader into decades-long evolution of sexuality, bodily autonomy, friendship, and loss. When I saw this, I saw it in the Publishers Weekly sort of release of new things that are coming out. I was so drawn to it and I'm so excited for this one. This is going to be out in May by Penguin Press. That one sounds really good. I'm really excited for that one. The next one, this is also one that I'm super excited about. I don't read many books from Dial Press, but this one sounds really good. So this one is called First Love by Lily Danciger. And the blurb for this one is a bold, poignant essay collection that treats women's friendship as the love stories they truly are, from the critically acclaimed author of Negative Space. Depending on how I feel about this one, I will most likely be reading Negative Space. But I think the idea of approaching the exploration of love and first loves as the first friendships in your life is beautiful and something I relate to, and really curious to see how this is developed. So excited for this one. I truly cannot wait for it. So okay, so we're finally in June. I feel like I'm gonna stop at July because we don't really know what's being published. I mean, I don't really know what's being published after July. But the last 3 books, so we have Mouth Stories by Paloma Ghosh. This one's coming out in June 2024. And the line for this one is, mouth surrealism is both unique and captivating. Paloma Ghosh reaches into otherworldly spaces while exploring the everyday struggles of isolation, longing, and the aching desires of our flesh. I'm such a fangirl for stuff on longing. I don't know what that says about me. I think it's also a short story collection, so I'm super excited to get into this. I didn't write down who is publishing it. Let's check that real quick. Astra. Ugh, Astra House is bae. They always like give us such good stuff. The next one that I'm really excited about is Catarina by Carla Cornejo Villavicencio. It's coming out by One World, which is like, I think, a Random House in print. But the line for this, bearing and daring. Brash and daring, part campus novel, part, what's this word? Hagiography? What's this word? I've never seen this word before. We can look it up together. But brash and daring, part campus novel, part hagiography, part pop song. Catalina is unlike any coming of age novel you've ever read, and Catalina, bright and tragic, circled by a nimbus of chaotic energy driven by a wild heart, is a character you will never forget. Super excited to read that. I really enjoy Carla's online presence and I really enjoyed The Undocumented American, so I'm curious about this one as well. And the last book on our little list, unless I find one more so that I can even it out and make it to 24, since I totally messed up. Oh, you know what? I got it. I got one. Okay, but the last book I have on my list is Liars by Sarah Manguso. This one is coming out by Hogarth in July, and the little blurb that got me going on this one was a searing novel about being a wife, a mother, and an artist, and how marriage makes liars of us all. Love it. This is one, I'll cheat. This is one that is out currently. It just came out in December. This is a Louise Kennedy short story collection called The End of the World is a Cul-de-sac. Apparently she had a friend who was in this writing group, and that friend brought her along, and she talks about how everyone had a writing practice except her. She was just like shooting the she wasn't really like a writer, she was a chef. And when she started writing these stories, she says she could not stop. And I feel like that was maybe the inception of her career as a writer. But this one's really well rated on Goodreads, and so I'm really excited to get into it. People describe it as super bleak. It's funny because I was just reading Juno Loves Legs by Carl. I am on my P's and Q's today, aren't I? Carl Geary. I was reading that book and it was really beautiful until I got really sad. And now I think I understand. Irish stories can get real dark and it like comes out of nowhere. I feel like I will be pausing that one. Maybe I'll lo reemplazo. What is it? I will replace it with this one. But yeah, I'm excited to read more Louise Kennedy. The little blurb for this one is women's lives are etched by deprivation, material, emotional, and sexual, but also splashed by beauty, sometimes even joy, as they search for the good in the cards that they've been dealt. All right, my little tulips, that is it. Those were the 24 books that I am super excited for in 2024. I think there are again 5 that I am like frothing at the mouth for, but I feel like there's gonna be so much good stuff published. This year, I'm also really curious. I feel like last year there were, I don't know, I feel like the publishing industry is always trying to replicate its successes. I feel like there was this organic sort of trend in books on motherhood, and then the publishing industry sort of jumped on that. And I feel like then everything was about motherhood. Yeah, I feel like for a while we had like the unhinged woman narrative. So I'm really curious to see what the new trend, the publishing trend will be, where things are gonna go. I'm excited for 2024. Let me know if you have any new releases that are on your radar and that you are just like, I got my pre-order and I am ready for this to be out in the world. I am super curious. I mean, I know again, we're talking about being disciplined in 2024, but I will never say no to buzz. So yeah, I'm excited to hear what you have to say. I do think that's it. I hope you're doing well and we will see each other soon. Bye.